pleased to now introduce our final presenter for the afternoon, Grant Withers, Principal with the Buchan Group. Grant has over 20 years of experience as a lead design architect with the Buchan Group and has 14 years as a director, focusing on large and complex mixed-use retail, entertainment and leisure developments, as well as multi-unit residential, commercial offices and hotel projects. As the head of design at Buchan, Grant is particularly focused on the retail space, developing relationships with key client groups and designing and delivering significant projects around the globe. Please join me in welcoming Grant Withers.
Afternoon. Okay, from one earthquake-prone country to another one across the other side of the globe. How many people in the audience here have been travelling to South America? A couple? Yeah. How many speak Spanish? Well, I certainly don't. So I'm going to take you across to Chile. So just join me on this journey for a little while. Now, to work. Okay, 18 months or so ago, we were approached here in Melbourne by our client group over in that project there, Mall Plaza. Oh, there we go. Mall Plaza is our client group over in Chile. For those of you that don't know, Mall Plaza are a fairly significant player in the retail sector over there. Particularly in Chile, 21 or so projects they have. They've been in that retail sector for 30 years at least, so they are and have been a serious player in the market over there. And during the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they effectively owned retail in South America, particularly Chile, branching into Peru and Colombia most recently, and these days they're looking to expand their business into Argentina, Brazil, and further north into Mexico. Mall Plaza came to us sort of through the grapevine. They'd heard about experiences that our local clients, our Australian clients, had with Buchans, and particularly our expertise in restorative projects, new projects, expansions, renovations, all those sorts of things. And fortunately, they arrived in Melbourne, a delegation from Santiago in Chile, and came to talk to us about a couple of particular projects. One was Emporium, one was Eastland. Now, having discussed what their needs were, they quickly invited us over to Santiago to have a look at a couple of their assets. So that was interesting, a fantastic opportunity for myself personally and the team. Another couple of guys from our design team, Alyssa and Alan Lucchini, accompanied me to that visit to Santiago. And it was interesting because, you know, as a business, the Buchan Group had really never been looking in that direction to do project work. South America was a bit of a frontier, I suppose, for us. We were always focused on Asia, Europe, the UK, that sort of thing, and locally in Australia as well. So great opportunity for us as a business to go and look at a new part of the world, a new culture, a new client group, and just explore that opportunity, which was fantastic. So. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll just quickly show you where we're at. For those of you that haven't been to Chile and Santiago in particular, it's a fascinating place. You know, as a country, it's fascinating. And I remember the trip that we did the first time we flew into Santiago. A clunky old 747 with Qantas badges on it flew us into Santiago. We cruised past the Andes Mountains, and for us as Australians, with a couple of little hills up north, the Andes are spectacular. You know, just to see just the impact that the Andes Mountains have on the geography there is pretty impressive. Chile, as you know, is a very long country, going up the west coast of South America. and the Andes are basically the eastern border of that country. So spectacular arrival for us into Santiago, so that was a pretty good start to the journey. From then on, it just got better and better. So we started to explore, part of the culture, meet the client group, go and explore the city of Santiago and the surrounds, and some of the imagery you can see on the screen here now is just a very small snapshot. What you can notice from some of these images is it's very colourful. The Chileans are a colourful culture. And I think part of the reason they came to us, not just in Australia, but Buchan's as well, Australia has a history of being very multicultural. And the Chileans, having a Spanish background predominantly, the lifestyle of the Chileans is very similar to ours. That's why they kind of assimilated themselves to us. They told us they got a little bit sick of the Americans and what the Americans were serving up to them and saying, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. So they made that strategic decision to come and explore other markets, other consultants, different approaches, and roll the dice and see where that took them. So there's Chile on the left-hand side there. It disappears off the top of the page and the bottom of the page. It's a very long country with a massive Argentina sitting to the east side of us. Santiago is 70 kilometres from the coast, the Pacific coast. So it's very close to the foothills of the Andes, and it exists in a basin, if you like. So surrounded by mountains, as I said, very spectacular part of the world. We kind of went there and didn't have any preconceptions of what we were about to see. They hadn't even shown us any photographs before we went to Santiago to have a look at the project, in particular this one. This project is called Mall Plaza Vespuccio. Vespuccio is to the southeast of the centre of Santiago. Santiago is dense, low to mid-level income, so reasonably poor. It's an emerging market somewhat, but the building stock there, again, as I said, going from Japan, where earthquakes are a regular thing. Well, they're pretty regular here, and just last week they had a 7.1 earthquake in and around this project here, and that's nothing for them. They just, they have them regularly. So that's part of the entertainment over there. So the existing centre that we were asked to go and have a look at, I can't read that screen. I'll look at this one. The existing centre, which exists here in this photograph here, has been around for about 30 years. It was Mall Plaza's flagship centre. So if you can imagine, a Chadstone or a High Point or a centre of that sort of scale, it's already 170,000 square metres of GLA. It's a massive centre. It's been around for 30 years, as I said, and it's always been a very strong performer in the marketplace over there. And that's part of the problem, and that's one thing I'm going to talk about today, is when things are really good, they're really good, but they can turn bad pretty quickly. Vespuccio is a working class suburb. It's quite a sprawling suburb, a little bit like Dandenong here, where it's very flat, low to middle income, lots of industry, lots of pollution, but really well connected. So metro lines running along this edge here and this edge here of the project. That's the centre itself, and around the centre is a mix of residential businesses and those sorts of things. So for that reason, a centre of that sort of size was pretty much the symbolic centre of the community. So people built their lives around this centre from the early 80s, that sort of thing, because it was kind of the centre of commerce, if you like, as well. It's certainly the central part of the urban context of Vespuccio. So because that was seen as the centre point of the community, then other businesses started to develop around it. So commercial office, hotels, medical centres. This is the Colo Colo football stadium. So Colo Colo, it's like our Collingwood, if you like. Very working class background to that football club. That's real football. soccer. Commercial projects around us. There's a massive hospital precinct as well, just to our northeast. The local authorities even built their headquarters right next to the retail project. As I said, served by 2 metro stations and some pretty serious major arterial roads. That's the project there. So in terms of scale, it's something that we're reasonably familiar with over here in Australia. It's a mega mall. It's a large mall. It's been around for a while though. It developed again, a similar story to Chadstone, if you like, or a lot of the big retail projects in Australia. That was a department store that's called Paris, and then there's another department store at this end called Ripley. That connection there was stage 1 across there. Stage 2 was the extension of the centre here with the inclusion of a department store called Falabella. Falabella are a little bit like Debenhams, if you like. It's a low to mid-level department store. And then some further additions, this little precinct called Iris, or Air in Spanish, and other bits and pieces. So over the years, like a lot of typical retail projects, it's had expansion, renovation, problem fixes, all that sort of stuff, lots and lots of little band-aids put on bits and pieces of the project, and that's where we're at today. And because of all of that development in a somewhat ad hoc way, it's become what it is today, and I'll get to that in a little bit more detail. So for us, the challenge, being a massive challenge, was to try and unravel all of this project and make some sort of logical sense out of it before we could even start the process of looking at design. So the current challenges, and this is pretty serious, and I think it's probably an extreme case with this project, but many of the centre owners in the room, the developers, can probably look at these and agree that they've got some type of problem similar to these. So number one is that the centre, because it's been operating for 30 odd years and operating really successfully, the centre owners kind of took it for granted that the customers were okay as well. Everything's going fine, so nothing's wrong with our centre. So there was this kind of behaviour within the client group that everything's okay, but that meant that the customer, and we've talked about the customer as being one of the focal things of this discussion today, the customer was kind of being neglected. They weren't listening to the customer. They were developing things as though the customer needed it, wanted it, was aspiring to it, all those sorts of things. And that wasn't the case. So it turned into a behaviour within the client group of this status quo, and they accepted that status quo, and that's kind of a dangerous part, a dangerous practice to start to do. So over time, not only were the customers seeking an alternative offer, the other offers were starting to present themselves, and so much so that if I just go back to that. This photograph here, so much so that someone came and built another shopping centre called the Florida Centre, less than a kilometre away. So a lot of our customers were simply going, well, that's the new shiny thing, and it's much easier for me to park there. I can still catch the metro there. I'm going to go to the new shiny thing. And that left this guy in a hole. So competition emerged, and our customers who craved new experiences were leaving in droves, and that's real. That's a real story. This has all come through a lot of customer interaction and survey work as well. These were the real things that they were thinking and feeling. Tenants, including the anchors, the lifestyle, any food and entertainment, became irrelevant, so they weren't upgrading their offer as well. They were stagnating. Dangerous. The building, the spaces within it became tired and stale. The inhabitants of the precinct started to include more and more undesirable characters as well, which was an interesting thing, which meant loyal customers and the community have begun to feel unsafe. So they're in a downward spiral, and it's not a great story. The centre was dying, literally dying. tenants were leaving or going out of business. Something had to be done, and quickly. Now, just as well, because talking about earthquakes, when we went and visited this centre, we were kind of hoping the big one would just level the whole thing and we could start again. But you can't say that sort of thing to a client, can you? Anyway. Okay, so where do you start with something of this sort of scale, this complexity, this amount of legacy and story and all of that sort of stuff that's attached to it? Where do you start? So for us, and it's a pretty common way of Buchan's approaching a project, we've got to come up with a story. What's the vision? What's the client's vision? So we had several workshops, meetings, deep and meaningful conversations over a few drinks and that sort of thing about what do they actually want? What do they want us to come and fix for them? What's the problem? So that's when all of this material started to emerge about the customer feedback and the performance of the centre and the tenants and that sort of thing. So we said to them really quickly, you guys need to come up with a vision. Get your marketing people, get your leasing people, get your development team, get your board of directors and investors. We need to come up with a starting point. Effectively, we need to identify the DNA of this project really quickly. Then we can start to unravel it and sort of unfold the challenges ahead of us. So in Spanish as well, transforma vida urbana. Transform urban life. That's what it boiled down to. Because again, this project being the symbolic heart of the city of Vespuccio, it was the heart of the city, the heart of the community, the heart of commercial activity, and the heart of sort of daily life in Vespuccio. So out of that, and out of a lot of the research and the discussions, we quickly came to a point where we agreed that for our customers to actually start to re-engage, we got to start from scratch, and we need to create a story, a compelling story, and maybe it's a story that needs to roll out over many, many years. But we need to reinsert some emotion into this place, and positive emotion, and the idea of actually creating a place again, creating a place that our customers are going to love. That's a great starting point. They kind of already do love it, but they're so sick of it. They're a bit over it and they're going to the competition. But they want their symbolic heart of the city back again. So they kind of have a starting point. They love it. Let's really invigorate that love for it. Okay, so again, one of the other things we said to them is, okay, you're going to go forward and create a master plan around this project and this city and the community. So what's that master plan all about? And I think with every project that we work on, in some way, it's about creating a legacy, and hopefully it's a really positive legacy. Sure, there's going to be setbacks and hurdles and things like that on the way through. There's going to be technology that's going to come and sort of kick us from the side as well, and start to get us to rethink everything again. But ultimately, we're going to forge ahead. Bricks and mortar retail, hopefully, is going to be around for a long, long time. So what's that legacy? What are we trying to create here? Transcend the commercial. Yep, we've got to get the commercial right. It's got to pay for itself. It's got to earn money. It's got to make a return for its investors. We get that. But what it's got to do is provide that positive legacy to the customer, the community, the owner as well. The owner needs to understand that they're creating a legacy as well. So here we go. We're into imagery here. So the thing here is we worked with the client group to come up with what they call the ALMA study. So again, if you're going to create legacy and you're going to create a project that people are going to love, ALMA in Spanish is soul. And I've kind of mentioned that before to lots of clients, that real projects, great projects, have got great soul, and that is something that evolves over time as well. So we've got to come up with soul. So they went off and did this ALMA study, and that uncovered a whole lot more things that they needed to consider. Create a new urban village for the Florida district, connected and permeable. So one of the comments from the community, the customer base, was, you guys turn your back on us as a building form, as a concept, the big bad shopping centre is turning its back on the community. Why don't you open it up to the community, open your arms to the community, acknowledge that we're here, and stop being the big bad commercial developer? So they listened. Deliver new trends. Again, this is catch up. So they haven't done anything for 30 years. So this is about catching up. So all of the competition was providing those fast fashion brands, the international brands, all of those things that we're all familiar with, what the latest trends are, the H&Ms, the Zaras, Topshops, etc. These guys needed to catch up quickly. So that's part one of the solution, is to give the public what they want. Promote experiences. Again, it's a buzzword at the moment, the word experience. What does that mean in that local context? One of the big ones that came out of the ALMA study was this idea of health and wellness. So because it's a community centre and it's at the heart of the community, they thought, well, why does it just need to be a shopping centre? Why can't it actually enrich my whole life? I want to go and shop there, I want to socialise there, I want to exercise there, I want to do all of those things because it's my centre. Why shouldn't I be able to do that? Okay, so where do we do that? Now, this last one here, this is interesting. The customer survey suggested that the big bad developer, Mall Plaza, didn't understand that they wanted to spend quality time at a place like this in their community heart. They felt that Mall Plaza was neglecting them, ignoring them, making it hard to park. I can't get into the centre as well. I'm having a bad experience, which means I'm wasting my time. So that idea of time value is a really important one to consider, and particularly in Australia, where customer patterns are pretty fickle. So time value. So just keep an eye on that one. All right. So this is kind of the palette of our starting point. So these are all of the behaviours or philosophies or approaches that we need to address in this project to get it right. And as I said, we're probably not going to get it right in the first instance, but we'll have a good crack at it. With all of these ideas of experience, customer interaction and immersion, and the weaving in of digital technology and that sort of thing, these are some of the human behaviours that we want to try and promote with all of the things that we provide in a project. We want to surprise people. We want to delight people, we want to create experiences, we want to engage with the community, we want people to interact, whether it's digitally or analogy. We want to create places, of course. We want to introduce opportunities for education and creativity. We want to create spaces that are dynamic and flexible and changeable and all that sort of thing, so that projects can evolve over time and fantastic, fun, curated experiences can happen. We certainly have to acknowledge culture. Again, when we're talking about the customer profile is pretty deep, colourful. It's a 3D thing. You can't just say this is our customer base and sum it up in one line. It's not that easy. So really having a look at the profile of your customer and understanding their needs, their wants, their aspirations, their behaviours, the cultures, the countries that they come from, all of that sort of thing, and how that can weave its way into a project. Create immersive experience as well. So those touch points, those analogue touch points that we talked about before are really important. Of course, where we can, we want to provide wow factor, but wow factor, be careful with that one, because wow is only wow for a short time. Then you've got to reinvent it again. So it's, people expect to be tantalised by new and exciting experiences. Engaging with the community, make sure that the bones, the framework of a project enables evolution capability. Create positive challenge for people. People thrive and crave for that sort of thing. Time value, as I mentioned, and social responsibility is one thing. So, again, trying to comprehend all of that and put it into a design and into a master plan or a vision, that sort of thing, meant that we needed to, go and look at these things, acknowledge legacy. So don't forget about its past. It's got a past. Don't ignore it. Just acknowledge it, and admit that we've done some things wrong in the past, and this is how we're going to fix it. Third one there is probably the most important one. Focus on people. Make it democratic. In this particular part of the world, that whole idea of democracy is really important to them, to the general public. So we're making sure that the place, the spaces, the opportunities that the customer base have got, the local community, feel democratic. So it doesn't feel like I'm going into a commercial space that, I've got CCTV cameras on me all of the time and I'm being watched. These guys want to be able to socialise, relax, get some time value and that sort of thing in their experience here. So make it democratic, connect to the city, make it legible and permeable and safe, develop opportunities for diverse experiences. And they can be of all different scales, so massive cultural festivals, sporting events, right down to intimate little things that people can associate with. Develop opportunities for diverse experiences, I said, reimagine the offer. So just the basic core retail offer, the inline shops, the anchors, the food courts, all of that sort of stuff. We've got to get that right. But introduce things, new things in entertainment, new things that relate to culture, education, health and wellness. Develop a compelling story or a series of stories that can roll out over time and create something that's really dynamic. Enable a thriving city heart again. So I'll quickly flick through these. These basically represent the first sketches we did in reaction to developing a master plan. So connecting, or if we're going to call this thing an urban village, we better make sure that it's well connected. So outward connections, out into the community, out into the urban fabric that's surrounding us. Connect to streets, lanes, metro connections, pedestrian connectivity, all that sort of stuff. Look inwardly as well. So our community want to engage with us. So how do we give them opportunities to come into our edges and engage? Then it's about establishing, legible precincts and districts within this project. Because as I said again, this thing eventually is going to be well over 200,000 square metres of GLA. So, try and comprehend that as a customer, trying to make sense of all of this stuff. So legibility is key. So we came up with the idea of, having the retail core in the centre and global brands as part of the expansion project. Looking at putting health and wellness over here, but all of these green areas are all those sort of breathing spaces, the lungs of the project that again encourage people to come into the project. Retail strategy, it's got to have a pretty strong, robust framework to build around. So the existing framework for the strategic retail plan was pretty disjointed. So we said to them, look, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you do a very simple, legible, connected racetrack to connect all of these districts and precincts together, which they really appreciated. That goes to fix a lot of the problems they've got with legibility at the moment. And then creating, social spaces. The Chileans are very social people, particularly around family and food. So again, great opportunity for us to create some really good food precincts. Entertainment, again, being the civic heart of Vespuccio, we should own entertainment and leisure as well. So again, it's about creating new offers, new models, better offers and all that sort of thing to recapture the population that's disappearing to competition. Because over there, the competition in cinemas is pretty high as well, so we needed to recapture that part of the market. Pretty standard stuff. Make sure it's pedestrian friendly, make sure the parking is easy, make sure that the parking's convenient, safe, well lit, great wayfinding and signage, all those standard things that we kind of do, that had to be done as well, because this project was so bad. what they do over in Chile, which is a bit strange, and it's strange for us, but it's starting to occur here, is they have car showrooms embedded in their retail projects, like serious ones. So over here, the Mall Plaza has this brand called Auto Plaza, and it's very well connected to the mall. So, imagine a Subaru showroom with 50 cars in it, basically with a shop front, and then it sort of disappears into some space at the back of the centre. So that was something new to us, as to how we engage with a big box user like that sells cars. But they'll go and shop, go to the food court for lunch, then go and buy a new car in the afternoon. Cool. Okay, so again, as part of our master plan strategy, we then once we'd sort of solved those holistic master plan issues about the connectivity and that sort of thing, it's now to delve into the precincts themselves, because individually these are serious sized projects. So creating, a town square, a symbolic civic heart of a fairly serious scale, because when they have cultural festivals over there, they're pretty significant. So we needed to make sure we created spaces and places that were the right size, had the right infrastructure, had the flexibility to evolve over time, but to create fantastic places and spaces for all of this fantastic colourful activity, cultural activity to occur. Now, is this going to play? This is a moving image. Hit the go button. No? All right, don't worry about it, that's fine. Let's go back to it and I'll just keep skipping through. So, the idea of having a town square means, what are some of the commercial uses, civic uses and other things that we can have around. Sorry, can I just go back? So what other things can be used around a town square that are complementary? Now, we've done this really well in Australia, and more so recently, seeing things like town squares, civic spaces, courtyard garden areas and things like that as a positive gesture to providing support for the retail and other functions around it. So this one here, in a very European way, it's surrounded by restaurants. There's a library. There's a cultural centre. Sorry about that. So a cultural centre here, and then into the retail, and the big boxes are the likes of H&M, Zara, Topshop, that sort of thing. So this is the new expansion through here. But it's all about creating that civic gesture there, but also connecting down below. So right here we've got access to a metro station, which is terrific. So it's great for the project. So coming into the centre, this part here, which is on the south side of the project, is a large extension, roughly 30,000 square metres, similar scale to the Eastland expansion, if you like, over multiple levels. So this is the piece that's the catch-up mode, if you like. So it's H&M, Zara, Topshop, and all of the international fast fashion brands and other sort of complementary brands around that. So that was kind of step one to solve the problem of the customers leaving to go to the competition. So we're doing that. Okay. The next precinct is in the east of the project, which is the introduction of a second supermarket. They have a brand called Leader, which is about 12,000 square metre, like the old sort of Super K hypermarkets, combination of a DDS and a supermarket. So that, again, that's suffering. They haven't done anything to that hypermarket for years and years and years. So the opportunity now is for them, to be a key anchor in this big fresh food precinct up here, what we're calling the urban market and entertainment component. But again, it's about capturing that fantastic food story that lives and breathes in Chile. Chile's got a great food story. food, wine, particularly seafood. They've got a fantastic seafood opportunity over there. So again, we want to capture that and create those opportunities in a similar way to what we're doing here in Australia. And that's why they love it over here, is because they believe that what we're currently doing in our projects in Australia is world class, and they want a piece of it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Hopefully they'll get the operators to come on board as well. That's another big challenge in Chile, is that the market's a little bit thin. That they've got the providers are there, the growers are there. They just don't have someone that packages it up and can do that sort of retail frontage to represent their fantastic food culture. But it's all there. Sorry, there's some slides missing. These are the 3D renders, which is the cool bit. No? All right, sorry about that. So here, again, this is a 2-level part of the centre on the eastern flank, which has some failing cinemas, it has some failed restaurants, a really dodgy nightclub, and a pretty dismal food court that's still stuck 30 years ago. So again, this is all about resurrection and creating this fantastic new story around food, entertainment, leisure and social time. So the space in the middle there becomes that social space, that courtyard, mini town square, if you like, that all of this activity can spill into and create those fantastic opportunities for engagement, food trucks and all the stuff that we're familiar with here that we do so well. This is cool. This precinct here is called Pro Sport. In Chile, again, as I said, they love the outdoors. They're very adventurous people. They love their sport. They love their outdoor mountain biking, trekking, skiing, all that sort of stuff. You can be in the ski fields from this project in about 35 minutes. You can be on the ski fields. So the idea behind Pro Sport, again, it's part of the precincting strategy for the project, is to cluster all of the sports brands, your Nike, Adidas, Puma, all those sorts of guys, which they have over there, but they just disperse them across the centre, and there's no particular rhyme or reason as why that's been done. So we've said to them, cluster them all together. So get all your sports brands together, get all your leisure brands, your North Faces and your Kathmandus, your Columbias, all those sorts of things. Create this fantastic precinct, and this is on the north side of the project here, and it's within an existing part of the building. So we're just basically decanting and reconfiguring the tenancy mix to create this really strong precinct that's all about the retailers, sure, displaying their wares and giving them a big voice, but clustering them together and allowing them to spill out into this central space here, which is a lot more like an expo type space. So it's where Nike and Adidas and those guys can come out into this space and promote their wares, but also have sponsored events, exhibitions, get local celebrities as well to come into the project and actually give this particular precinct its own soul, its own character, its own life. Fortunately, it has an existing car park out to the north side of it as well, which we can then spill out onto and create all of these sorts of interaction opportunities, those analogue opportunities that the customer's craving. So, there's skate mad in Chile as well. So there's skate parks and street skating everywhere as well. So just the opportunity to create a sculptural piece, and that's the skate park wrapping around the futsal court there. It's participatory, it's entertainment, it's health and wellness, it's all of those things together. This is a chameleon space as well, if you like. So this is a space that's flexible and can be curated and can engage with certain aspects of the customer base, and it can be a fantastic, almost that kind of iconic activity space. So strong focus on kids and health and activity. So we've created this sort of climbing structure that wraps around at the upper level. Seasonal events. Again, Santiago being where it is, in the middle of winter, it's pretty cold. It was about -12 when we were there, so sure, set up the skate park and ice skating rink, do it for 3 months, it becomes that fantastic iconic space. These guys are pretty good at beach volleyball as well, so that's Chile versus USA. And again, this is about getting some national pride into the project as well, I think, which is another interesting opportunity. Have sponsored events, have national sporting events in this place as well, to put it on the map. And it's big enough to be able to accommodate it. Futsal, they're mad for futsal over there. Get a big sponsor to come in, actually have an extreme games event at this space. It can be done, and it's right next to the retail offer there that's supporting all of this stuff. So they can have external events, and they can also have internal events in that interior space. Rock concerts, festivals, local artists, that sort of thing. That's the kind of thing we're looking at. And again, it's an idea at this stage, it's a vision, but they love it. They think it's great. It's a great opportunity. Inside, again, as I said before, that central space in the middle of the Iris or Pro Sport area, again, is an opportunity for activation. Now, with all of this sort of activation stuff, there's always a challenge about how do you actually do it? How do you curate it? How big a team do I need to do it? What's the budget? All of that sort of thing. Well, these guys are going to have the same problem. But again, we've said to them, that's a challenge for you guys to take up. And let's just see how it evolves. And they've certainly got all of the ingredients to work with. They've got all of these events and the brands and the population. They've certainly got population to come and fill the spaces. This round thing in the middle here is what we call the Oracle. So it's a digital sport obelisk in the middle of this space as well that is kind of displaying worldwide sports and sport opportunities that are happening, whether it's World Cup soccer or it's the America's Cup or it's whatever the horse racing's on. That these guys can sit around like this in this sort of arrangement here around the Oracle, and it can give you all the scores around the world. All of this sort of activity, again, it's analogue. There's some digital interfaces there, but it's all about participation, immersion, feeling like you're in the game. You can watch it or you can participate, but you've got the option to do that, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of a sense of what that space is. Again, it's a 2-level space with the expo in the middle. So you can see that the challenge that Mall Plaza have got with this project is that there's it's overwhelming. The challenges that they are facing and the steps they need to go through to achieve this vision, it's pretty daunting for them. And I can understand why, but we've got to give them this starting point, and they've got to come on board and adopt this concept if they want to get this project out of the hole that it's in. This next series of images is really about the existing centre upgrade. Now, we've all done that in projects here in Australia. Again, it's about the next best thing, the retail mix, the shop front height increases, the refurb of all the materials and finishes in the public spaces. So we're doing that as well, and that is a significant project in its own right. Are these going to work, Narita? No. That's the existing centre. And it's a pity they're not working because you can see how we're transforming it. So what we'll do is when we issue this package to the group, we'll make sure that the videos work. They were working before. So yeah, this is the retail upgrade, and again, we're trying to convince them to create strong precincts, like brands together. Make sure that the legibility of precincts is in there, and that they enable the tenants, the retail story, to be a strong voice in the project. So you can see, it's very much of its time, of the 80s, and they just haven't done a thing to it. You walk around this place and there's bits and pieces falling off the building. All the floor tiles are cracked. There's water damage coming through the ceiling. So again, it's a sad story. It's sad to see, but equally, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to resurrect themselves. This is an interesting little concept. On the south side of the project, there's another metro station. So as I said, there's 2 metro stations, left and right of the plan. This one here is a fantastic ant track. It's lots of people are commuting in and around the building from this metro station. So again, you've got a captive audience. They're coming in to do their banking and their daily services and their convenience shop and that sort of thing. So let's use that ant track as an opportunity to create another really strong, diverse precinct. So, this is our bit of Melbourne that's coming out in Santiago, but they've got this culture there as well. If you walk around the city streets in the old part of Santiago, the graffiti that they've got there is world class. In a lot of ways, it matches what we're doing in the city of Melbourne for sure. So we're creating this gritty, tactile, high level of friction space that the commuters will be able to walk through, grab a coffee, and participate in that type of experience as well. That's kind of the space there. There's on the left-hand side is a department store, the Ripley department store, with a bridge linking across to parking. There's the auto showroom, as I said, but again, they treat the auto showroom like it's 30 years old as well. So they haven't really engaged with new technology, and they're not the kind of, the car brands themselves are 10 years ahead of the spaces that they're in. Just nearly finished, but this is kind of at the extreme end of the vision, if you like. So this is, we fix all the other problems, hopefully. These are the supplementary and complementary things that we want to put into this project, which is hitting that point about health, wellness, and, a piece of the community or a piece of the urban fabric that is just a simple requirement from our customers. They want to be able to go and exercise here, as I said. They want to go and get treated. They want physio. They want to be able to get, go and do the yoga classes in the city centre. That's what this is about. And just to finish up on, and again, it's a pretty sort of common strategy that's happening now, particularly in Australia and overseas, is just that importance of food. The food strategy across projects is I like to call it the glue. It's the thing that stitches the whole project together. You can do, a fantastic retail outcome, and you can create entertainment spaces and that sort of thing. But really, it's the food. Food's where it's at right now, and food is that fantastic opportunity, particularly where you've got a pretty diverse culture across your demographic. Food is a way to express cultures really well. It's that fantastic theatre event. It's that social event. It's it's almost 24 hours a day these days. This one here, we actually created a hierarchy for them so that they can understand the importance of food. When we first said to them, you should really be having sort of 15 to 20% food across your whole project, they went, what? No way, that's too much. But then when you actually go through the hierarchy of the different food types, they kind of got the message then. So when you start to locate them around the project as well, from restaurants, the sort of highest end of the hierarchy, if you like, family restaurants, pubs and that sort of gastro food, slow food, fast food, pop-up food, what we call stepping stones, those little food opportunities that occur around the project through the circulation pattern, those sorts of things. When you add it all together, including market fresh food and prepared food, laneway food, kiosks and pop-ups, when you look at the map, if you like, of the food strategy, it's pretty complex, but you need it. Or this project needs it, that's for sure. So after about 12 months, we finished up with a master plan, if you like, and with a bit of luck in the next 12 months, we'll start to roll out the strategy. It's a very ambitious project, but we've got a very ambitious and enthusiastic client for this one. They just haven't got all the money to do it at once. So, back to where we started. This is about transformation. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, it's a journey, and for us, it's super fun. That's what we do it for. Thank you.